because you probably know more people than I know. Well, we'll both pitch in. Okay. So we always start off with announcements, and let's start off with your announcements. So if you have jobs or if you're looking for a job, anyone looking for a job? Hello, recruiters. No, that's good. That's good because I always hear about jobs. By the way, since we're already talking about that, I'll just go ahead and skip to this slide. This is webdevphoenix.com, or this is a slide about it. And this is where you can go and say, hey, everyone, I'm looking for a job, or we have jobs, or whatever. It's just supposed to be a, actually, no, sorry, that's not the site. What am I thinking? This is a different site. This is a site where companies go and post that we hire for this type of technology and that type of technology. It's all done by pull request. So, let's say XYZ company's on there and you see them and you're like, I didn't know that they were in town. Like, I know U-Haul was in town and they hire web developers. Like, who would have thought, right? So you go here and you can see like what kind of developers they hire. It doesn't mean that they're hiring right now, but it will have a link to the potential page that they would post if they were hiring, whether it's on their own website or careerbuilder.com or something like that. What I meant to say was this site, and unfortunately it's a really long site. I haven't figured out how to do a domain name for it yet, but this bit.ly site, this is the Arizona Tech Meetup Alliance. The idea is all the different meetups in town, we all kind of got together and made up this concept page where it's a Google Plus page. And you can, so it's like a social page where you can say, I'm looking for a job, or people post events there and I'm trying to grow it. And right now it's got like 200 people and there's got to be like at least 5,000 people in the meetup community in Arizona. So we're definitely need to grow it a little bit more. So that's where you should go if you're looking for jobs. And if you can't remember the bit.ly thing, then you can always just search for Arizona Tech Meetup Alliance and you'll easily find it. All right, so let's do your announcements. Who has jobs that they're looking for someone at their company? Anyone? Yeah, Kelly?
We're still hiring. We're still looking for.
Who's we?
Oh, sorry. That makes sense, doesn't it? Cloud software. We do custom Salesforce applications, and so we're more. Even if you're just starting out in web development, that's great. We'll teach you. We're more concerned about aptitude, and if you fit in the, actual technology. But if you're good, that's great too. So, just get a hold of me.
Great. What about anyone else? You have a? No?
I'm not a recruiter, but I work for a company called Prize Logic. We do like a lot of digital promotions and games and contests and stuff. We just separated our main front end team into two teams to work with like our West Coast companies and our East Coast companies. And we're looking for 2 front end developers. So you can like Google search Prize Logic. I think we have
Prize Logic. Yeah, you guys are a big name in that. Sweet. And for all these announcements, by the way, if you could also leave a comment about your announcement on the event page on Meetup, because if someone wants to follow up, that's an easy way for them to get the information. That's also how we kind of like talk about things after the event is the comment page. Any other announcements? Anyone? Yeah.
This is a recruiting announcement, but I did want to mention that I run the Phoenix Google Developer Group, and January 9th, mark your calendars, we're going to be doing a single-day IoT Dev Fest at the Mesa Arts Center. So I'm going to announce the tickets this week, and we'll cross-post. But January 9th, we're going to have, it's going to be pretty awesome with international, national speakers, I guess. But I think we're going to price tickets $25 all day. So anyway, I know this crowd would be interested in that, so
yeah.
I wanted to mention it.
Yeah, announcements right now can be about events too. So so do you want to, let's talk about Code Day then in November.
Sure. You want to take it or you want me to?
You go ahead and take it and I'll fill it in. Yeah.
So I'm Elio Greco. Some of you probably already know me. Some of you I know I owe emails. So it's been hectic. I got about 112 emails to return, so bug me. I'll post the info on the Meetup page, but Code Day Phoenix is coming up. And that's going to be November 7th and 8th. It's a 24-hour event. And we have some amazing speakers. We have 200 kids or so that are going to come by Gateway Community College in the Copper Room. We're going to lock them in there for 24 hours, say, come up with something awesome. Good luck. So we've had kids do everything from really awesome, fully rendered 3D games in Unity to more basic stuff. We had one little girl propose basically the Turing test as a boyfriend simulator. It's a really ambitious one. So lots of great stuff. We have a focus on cybersecurity this time. So we're going to have some amazing speakers, CTO of Drive Savers, VP of Tech for Tasers, people from the FBI, from Homeland Security, from the cyber warfare range. So some really incredible stuff in that regard. And again, you do not have to come for all 24 hours. You can come and if you want to volunteer or mentor, just come by for 2-3 hours. And again, I'll post the link. It's cahoots.com/code day. Trying to think, what else you'll be speaking actually. You're one of our.
Well, I go and I teach, because some people show up and they don't know how to do getting code. So I teach some kids how to do like HTML and just enough CSS to make something in the next 24 hours. So that's kind of fun. I mean, if you like volunteering for stuff, you should go and hang out and volunteer your time. It's pretty fun because they're all really excited. And they're high school kids, so if you say, "Are you excited?" they won't say anything, but they're.
So yeah, actually, most of them are high school kids. We actually have all the way from junior high. We were overrun with junior high last time, but usually we have junior high, college, and then we even had a few active duty military. So it's a really broad range. We had 40% women and girls last time, so we're actually hoping for at least 50% this time, and a lot of diversity. We got kids who've been doing this for years, have stuff in the App Store, and kids who've never hardly touched a computer or Title I. So everything in between.
Yeah,
I think that covers it.
Yeah, and speaking of these kinds of events, I've also just caught wind of there's like a women's like hackathon thing coming up.
Oh.
And I don't know what it's called, but if you wanted to email me about that, is that what it is?
She hacks.
Okay. She hacks?
I think so.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just spreading the word about that too. And yeah, also if you have jobs or want to seek jobs, Cahoots, their website has a jobs posting page, which is free. And it's kind of a little known secret around here, but that's a nice free job posting place. Phoenix staff, do you guys want to make any announcements?
Probably just a general one.
Okay.
I think some of you guys probably know us well enough that we are hopefully becoming a staple in business. For those of you that don't know us yet, I'm Ben, this is Rachel, this is Matt. Yeah, what's to say about a recruiting company, right? Some of you guys probably have lovely relationships with our company.
I used a recruiter once and I didn't die. It was fine. It works out fine.
Yeah, we're here to, more than anything, this is a huge benefit to us, for us to come and just hang out with you guys, because we always learn something from presentations. We're kind of tech geeks ourselves. Obviously, not great for geeks, but yeah, it's just a great opportunity for us to come out and we can keep our pulse on the market a little bit. You guys, please feel free to ask us questions. The market is our day in and day out. We're working with executive leadership, management, developer. I mean, everybody in the valley we tend to have a pretty good relationship with or one degree or two from. So that's the value that you can leverage from us. And hopefully at some point along the line, we'll do something more remarkable than just a conversation. So anyway.
Well, and thank you for pizza, so let's thank them for pizza. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as most of you know, I'm helping putting together CSS Day, which is going to be here in December on Saturday on the 5th. And it should be really fun. We've got a great keynote. Jonathan Snook is our keynote, and he's easily top 5 in the world at CSS, top 5 most well-known people. In fact, I just met him yesterday and the day before because I was in California at a CSS conference there, and that's where I've been. So I just flew in and got here just in time. And it was a really fun conference. There was a lot of cool people there. Met a lot of interesting people. There was a lot of top-notch CSS and JavaScript people there. There's a guy named Philip Walton, if you know that name. He's a Google evangelist, and he is very well known, and he did a talk on web components. And if you either know what web components are, and you're probably thinking, well, again, web components, we've been hearing about that for like 2 years, like when is it ever going to happen, if ever? Or you don't know what web components are, and that's fine. In that case, you should probably go home and look up web components, because if and when it does happen, it's going to completely flip the whole web upside down on its face, and it's going to change everything. At least it should. So people might vary on their thoughts on that, but he said that it's happening for sure in 2016. That's his prediction. He's like, it's going to happen at the end of 2016. All browsers are going to support web components, because the way it works is the W3C. Everyone proposes what should happen with the web, and certain things get accepted and certain things don't, and then browser vendors argue about it. And the reason why this has taken so long to push through is because there's a lot to argue about, because it's a really big deal. So they're finally all getting in line with each other, and that's really good. But about CSS Day, if you want to come out, it's going to be pretty fun. It's going to be an all-day event. Ticket prices do go up in the beginning of November, around I think the 6th or the 10th or something like that. So if you haven't got your ticket yet, if you're holding out for some reason, they will go up in price. And the reason why we're doing that is only because we want to be able to get them now so that we can plan lunch and see how much lunch we should get. Okay? Besides that, I think I pretty much covered everything. So why don't you take it from here?
Cool. One other event on every Wednesday, Coffee and Code. It's a co-working event at Heat Sink Labs in downtown Mesa every Wednesday, 9 to 3. And there's a bar a couple doors down if anybody's interested in that. Sometimes we always go there afterwards. Okay. Here's my slides. All right. So this is me, Louis Montes. There's my Twitter handle, Montes Lou. It's also my Gmail and GitHub and everything else. Okay, so I have a consulting company, local. We do JavaScript, Node, IoT, robotics, all that sort of stuff. And we actually have some availability right now. So anybody wants to contract us out, we're open to taking on some new gigs right now. All right. Okay. I don't know what everybody does here, like what code they write, but does anybody, I want to put my hand up, does anybody love JavaScript? Love JavaScript. Good, awesome. You guys are awesome. All right, I love JavaScript. All right, and I had an interesting conversation with somebody that sort of got me thinking about all of this stuff, and about hardware and robotics and things. I love JavaScript. On something like an Arduino, it's a piece of hardware, right? It's got these pins. You don't write in JavaScript on that. These are really popular. They're super cheap. I got this one here, I think for $11 or $12. So there's some you can get on $3 anyways, you write in C. You compile it. You write it to the firmware. And but I like writing in JavaScript. So we had this conversation. That he thinks, well, this stuff is native. It's just how it should be on something like this, right? Also, it isn't just hardware, right? Not everybody wants to write in JavaScript. Some people like writing apps, right? Like iOS apps, Android apps. That's cool too. But there's a reason why I like JavaScript, and it isn't really just the language. Here's almost 200,000 reasons why as of last night. My big reason for liking JavaScript right now is NPM. So NPM is Node's package manager. There's almost 200,000 modules that are open source that you could pull down easily, just a command line, install, put it as part of your app. And a lot of these things lend themselves to browsers really well. All right, so that's kind of why I like using it. It's the community. It's it's really easy to get into, and it does pretty much most type of computing tasks that I want. But I still need native apps for certain things, right? Like Unreal Engine, right? That is the latest from Unreal. If anybody plays, one of my favorite games is Unreal Tournament '99. It was awesome. I mean, just a first-person shooter. But Unreal Engine actually renders in WebGL in a browser. So it isn't that. It isn't just that you need it for gaming, that gamings have to be native apps. I mean, there's plenty of them, they're awesome, but it doesn't have to exclusively be native apps. But certain things, right? Like you need an Android app or an iOS app for the camera, something like that, right? That makes sense. Except that you don't really, you can get that out of the browser right now. So the web browsers can give us things like, so real-time communications, like video conferencing, camera access, microphone, those things are available right now. They've been available for over a year, even on mobile browsers, the good ones anyways. So to get to, I'm going to show a bit of code in here. I apologize if you guys can't see it in the back. I'll put the slides up. I'll put them on my I'll put them up on the page and on my Twitter account and everything. But this stuff is pretty easy. I'm not actually going to get into this code because I got a lot of slides. But we can just ask for user media. We can get a handle on the camera. We can put that in a video tag. And so there's nothing new there, but it's pretty cool that we have this stuff available just to the web right now. So we've got like 3D graphics, we've got cameras and stuff. We can also do peer connections, right? So it doesn't just have to be I'm getting video and I have to post it to this server. I can actually talk to somebody else directly. Talkie.io is made by Andy out of Washington. It's really cool. It's free. It's like Skype video, except it's peer-to-peer. It's awesome. You can also just send messages. It doesn't even have to be a video stream or an audio stream. You could actually just send like little JSON messages back and forth between clients. And you could do that just in a web browser. You still have to sort of handshake somewhere, so we can like hit a server, handshake, and be like, okay, now you two talk to each other. But it could be any kind of data since it's just a data channel. It doesn't have to be video. But other things like GPS, accelerometers, high performance web audio to do like some kind of synthesizing of sounds and all of that stuff. That should certainly be a native app, right? Not really either that. We've got APIs for all of that stuff, and these have been around for a while. Geolocation. These ones are pretty much in every web browser now. Audio context, the high performance web audio, that took a while. It's in there now. So that's cool. But that's not. I'm not just yay. I mean, I got an HTML5 shirt on, but that's not like yay. It stocks HTML5. It's IoT. So yeah, what is that? Has anybody been doing this for 10 years? Maybe. Yeah. Okay. So you guys remember this, right? Like, whoa, Web 2.0. Web 2.0 is awesome because there's IoT, Web 2.0. This is all marketing terms, right? But what actually changed technically to make the web any different? With Web 2.0, as far as I'm concerned, it was this AJAX object, this ability to not have to reload a page, right? To have an API to call services in the background, right? So you can make a web page suddenly it's more interactive because you're doing things in real time, sort of, and things are just sort of happening in the background. It's acting more like a native app, sort of, but things got a lot better once we had this object because we didn't have to do full page refresh to do like a chat or something like that. We didn't have to have an applet or Flash or some garbage basically in our browser to do these sort of things. So that was actually pretty cool. So something actually happened to make things better, and we call it Web 2.0. Okay, but IoT. So the marketing stuff around this is all right. We're going to connect all these billions of devices together. This one's good because this was like a stat. We did 50 billion devices by 2020. Like nobody's going to remember that dude said that, right? Like it could be 75, it could be 10 billion, yeah, whatever. But the cool thing though is that we're going to start connecting little bits of hardware, not just hardware, services, talking to services, but basically connecting all of these things, putting some logic behind it, making some decisions, right? Making things that are actually useful, possibly. Whatever. The examples are always right. Like it's on your refrigerator to let you know that you need to buy eggs and send something to the store, so whatever. Like all that stuff, just connecting all these things. But what happened technically to make any kind of a change here, right? So Web 2.0, we got AJAX. IoT, what happened? So all that really happened is that there's more transports, right? We have AJAX. So if we can have a message to the server without doing a page reload, cool. What if we can have the server talk to us directly, right? So something changes on the server, we don't have to keep doing like AJAX, hey, anything changed? It's just real time, something happened. So that's where WebSockets came in. We had a lot of hacks to sort of build this functionality in. We would like maybe make an AJAX request and then just not have the server let that go until something interesting happens. And that was sort of real time. But since we have WebSockets, we're actually doing server push to clients, or maybe this client sends something to server, which sends something to that client. And so this became ubiquitous. Now we've got WebSockets everywhere. But not only do we have WebSockets, we come up with a few other types of transports to move data around. Another one is MQTT, something telemetry, I don't know, telemetry, I don't know. It's maybe message, anyway, look it up. Yeah, message queue, telemetry transport. Anyways, co-app, constraint, object, access, something. Anyways, these are just other ways of sending bytes across. So MQTT, actually in most cases, is more about formatting the packet in a certain way that says, hey, we always, like as a demo, light up an LED. And why we do that, it's like the hello world of electronics, right? Like, hey, I lit up an LED. That seems really stupid, but all of this robotics and all this automation, all this movement of hardware is based on having addressable pins that we're sending current to, because that makes a servo move. That makes, or it's either we're sending current or we're listening for changes in current. And that allows us to have sensor data come in or movement go out, automation. So back to this guy specifically, we can have a sketch. There's a sketch called Fermata. It's basically a C application that's going to run on here. And what that one does is it says, hey, anything that comes in on serial, any data that you have is going to be formatted, or if you format data in a certain way, zero for changes. And it's if any changes happen, send that back down the wire. So we just have a common sketch. So like I don't have to write in C to do this. I'm just going to use this one sketch. And I think the Arduino Uno's come with the sketch already loaded. So we've got some firmware on here, open source. All right. Okay, so where do we go from there? To actually do this stuff in JavaScript, there's a library called Johnny5. It's amazing. It's an abstraction around a bunch of different types of hardware. So something like an LED. Is everybody able, you guys for the most part able to see that? Is that pretty small? I don't know if I can zoom in on that or not. No, that doesn't help.
Hold control and double finger.
If I like that. Oh, hey, that's better. Ooh. A little bit better. Oh, that's too much. Okay. Anyways, all right. So so this is Node code, right? This is everybody familiar with Node? If you're not, it's why is Chrome fast? Chrome is fast because its JavaScript engine is fast. Its JavaScript engine is called V8. So we take V8 without Chrome and just make a little utility out of that with some other libraries to do things like HTTP requests and stuff like that. And then we have Node. And then we can bring in other libraries like Johnny5, require that in, create a board instance, so like a reference to this board. And when it's ready, call a simple API, LED, and then tell it to blink. So I'm going to do that because I have to do a hardware demo because if I don't do a hardware demo, I don't know, it feels weird. So let me see here. Yay, okay. So, wow, you cannot even see that at all. Maybe, can you guys see the bottom of the screen?
Yeah.
It looks gigantic on here, that's weird. Okay, so I connected an LED to pin 13 and to the ground, right? And then I'm gonna run this guy. Hey, it found a serial port. On Windows, that'd be like COM1 or something. On Mac or Linux, it's dev/something. Anyways, we're doing the blink thing. So that little bit of code that I wrote, okay, cool. So what is happening is it found the serial port, it made a connection to the serial port. It starts sending some binary data, particular format that says, hey, here's a little message, it's tiny. It says turn on pin 13, turn off pin 13, turn on pin. So that's what's happening here. Okay. All right, so that's our bridge to hardware. That's one way. And the cool thing here too is that it isn't just, I have to zoom back out. Okay, it isn't just LEDs, right? There's all kinds of hardware. We've got stuff like, this is a little, I got a bunch of hardware if anybody wants to look at any of this stuff. Here's an OLED screen, so super low power screen. It isn't very, it's like 64 by 128 pixels or something like that. But it runs on something called I2C, which is like you connect these two pins and it can send a bunch of commands. So it's like we're sending commands over serial, and then there's a couple pins on there sending commands to like a little daughter board to like right here. This isn't really a CPU, it's a microcontroller. Anyways, what we're sending stuff from here over to this guy, over this channel called I2C, but there's a ton of stuff like that. There's an accelerometer. There's just like a couple of dollars we can add to some project so that we can get, you know, XYZ changes, stuff like that. This one also has a temperature sensor on it for some reason, but this was like, that costs almost nothing. So we have like, with Johnny5, we've got all these APIs to do all this stuff. So with a little bit of JavaScript, you can like do some pretty cool hardware things. There's actually a ton of libraries around this stuff. But it isn't just Arduino, and it isn't just serial ports. So the serial port API, right, it's just, it's pretty simple. It's just a stream. It's just we're emitting bytes, and it's an event emitter where we're listening for on data events, right? So we're just got some data going back and forth. But it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be a USB serial port. It could be maybe a TCP socket that's streaming data. Maybe it's one of these MQTT channels. I wrote a library called MQTT-serial. It's on GitHub so that we can actually treat that as another one. So we have lots of different ways to get at the Arduino. If we have, like, say, a little Wi-Fi chip, we can maybe pump formatted data in through that, and then we can remote control stuff like that. And, or, like I said, MQTT or something else, or CoAP, suddenly this guy can be disconnected, remote, and we've got JavaScript running somewhere that's telling that thing what to do, or listening for sensor data on there. So we bridge the gap of like, where does the JavaScript run? Doesn't matter. Where is this thing at? How is it connected? Doesn't really matter. All that matters is that we're speaking for MATA over some type of channel. Okay, but like I said, they're not all, it doesn't all have to be like that. Some of the boards allow us to run Node and Johnny 5 code directly on the Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is a little computer, right? It's $35. It's super fast now. The Pi 2s are amazing. But that can run Node on it directly, and it's got a bunch of pins as well. So you could do stuff directly on the board. You don't even need a serial or anything. BeagleBone is the same way. Intel has Edison and Galileo 2. Same. Light Blue Beam is this guy, and it's actually Bluetooth Low Energy. I wrote the adapter for that one so that we could do robotics off of that guy using Bluetooth. Tesla 2 is a new one. It's going to actually, Tesla 2 is really, really cool. It's like made for Johnny 5 to run these APIs. Particle, here's a Photon. It's this guy here. Here's a little, it's like an Arduino, but with a Wi-Fi chip built in. They're like $20. The first gen wasn't that great. The Wi-Fi chip was awful on it, and it wouldn't stay connected. But these ones are good. The Photons are awesome. But I can, since that thing can connect to, it isn't powerful enough to run like Johnny 5 on it directly, but it can connect up to somewhere else, and then, like I said, send from MATA back to it, and we can do all that. So, okay, so there's lots and lots of hardware. So that's cool. We have all this hardware stuff that we can do, but we want to make decisions, right? We want some event to trigger something. It isn't just, okay, I'm running some code and doing this thing. I want some logic to happen to automate things, right? Motion sensor traps, I don't know, call the police, whatever. Like you want all of that stuff. Because this thing happens, then do this thing. So I'm gonna do another similar hardware demo here. What I'm gonna do this time is actually run an application, a Node application called Node Red. And sorry, it's one of these guys here. Nope. Okay, well, sorry, I didn't have it up in a tab here. And we're going to run Node, and the file is actually red.js, but that's going to spin up a little server. Cool. And it's on this address right here. So I'm just running a little local Node application. And oops. That's not what, you guys don't need to see my history. It's bad. All right. Okay, cool. So, wow, I fired up, and this guy's already connected. We can't see him either, can we? Can we zoom in on that? Actually, this guy's all SVG based, so bam, that's better. Oops.
Screwed up.
Yeah, let's see here, maybe. There we go. Okay, so what am I doing here? I actually made a couple of with Node Red. You can add some code in there. Like I made a couple of these nodes, right? Like we got stuff like if a tweet happens, do this thing, or whatever, or MQTT or WebSockets or UDP, all of the stuff. I wanted to make one that was specifically working with Johnny 5. So Johnny 5's got all these plugins to be an Arduino, a plugin for Raspberry Pi, for BeagleBone. So so I made a couple nodes to handle that. So we can like pick out which board do we want. Maybe we want to add a new one, like I want it to be an Arduino with Fermata, or maybe a Raspberry Pi, BeagleBone, like any of these guys here. That's pretty hard. Anyways, we can pick those out. I'm gonna cancel this because I already added, an Arduino. I just picked it out, I picked out the serial port, and now we can do things like, hey, send pin 1, or I'm sorry, send a 1 to pin 13, that means on, right? Because it's digital, 1 is on, 0 is off. Send pin 0, so this is a little inject node, so it's sending data to this instance of the board. So you can imagine, remember it's just an LED here, but that could be, you know, open the garage door, it could be anything. But it's just to send some current to a pin. So maybe a tweet comes in and that affects some hardware, or anything, a Facebook post, whatever. Any type of message from the internet can automate some hardware. And this is a Node.js application, so I'm running a Node server locally. Maybe I run that in the cloud or something. Anyways, that's sort of how that works. I also added a couple of these guys here for while I was still contracting for OctoBlue to do connections to OctoBlue service, right? The IoT. So if you're using their cloud and doing some automation via their UI, which is their UI is actually really awesome. It's similar to this, but theirs is already in cloud, and we can connect to that, and based on something that happens there, maybe that does something on here. Anyways, the cool thing with IoT too is that we sort of settled on these things. So like the actual payload, the data that's going across in this case is some binary thing, but the overall format, the bigger part of the package that says, hey, where to route this thing to, all the metadata, we've also sort of settled on that being JSON, which is JavaScript object notation. That's kind of cool because we can consume things like a REST feed that gives us JSON, or any of this stuff, since it's all like these JSON messages. And they're all sort of, here's just this object, and it's got a payload property, and that's something that your app will care about, or maybe like a from address or a to address or any of that stuff. But that just sort of became a de facto standard. OctoBlue's doing it, Node-RED is doing it. So it's really easy to interoperate between these things because we know sort of what the package is going to look like, and maybe we put in a little bit of code to manipulate things a little bit. Anyways, so Node-RED. All right, I'm going to kill that guy. Because I don't want him connected to my serial port anymore. And back to my slides. Here. Okay, so that was Node-RED. So there's different transports, right? I was saying like a serial port to transport, an MQTT thing could be a transport. Those got me thinking, and sort of like near the end of last year, I wanted to make this even more accessible. So the Node thing, there's a little bit of friction. If you're not a developer, like installing Node and doing some command line stuff, that's a little bit much. Maybe I want a kid to jump in and start doing some Arduino. So I just sort of wanted to lower the barrier to entry on doing robotics with JavaScript, because JavaScript to me is easy, it's I'm not saying it's easy for everyone, but it's pretty easy to get started, right? The constructs are pretty simple. So why not make an application? This is actually a Chrome extension, because there's Chrome extensions have a method of talking to serial ports. So Chrome.serial is an API, and then another guy wrote a sort of a shim to make Chrome.serial look just like Node serial port. So we could take our Johnny 5 code and run it in Chrome as an extension, because the extensions are needed to give hardware access right now. So let's give a quick view of that guy here. Oops. And this is in the Chrome web store right now. It's free. It's open source. Wow, that's also very hard to see, isn't it? Oh, okay. So Chrome package apps. I can't actually zoom here. Maybe if I could know how to zoom with the Mac or something, but I can't actually zoom in. But let's see here. Do I got a blink on here? I do. And since this is a web-based thing, I could actually talk. I could also have some audio APIs. So
Maybe that type of zoom that there was some shout out earlier. That's an OS level.
What's that?
That option scroll.
Oh, that's an OS
Yeah,
type
if you
thing?
hit hold control and then scroll.
Oh, control. Okay. Well, holding control and scrolling it up.
Use 2 fingers to scroll like that mouse wheel. Should.
I think Chrome packaged apps swallow this stuff up. So yeah, it's really hard to. I haven't actually seen anybody successfully zoom unless you have like a magnifier for the whole screen or something in the OS that'll do that.
Afterwards.
Okay, cool. Anyways, so this is that same sort of Johnny 5 code that we were able to see earlier, but running in Chrome, and I'll give this a shot, and it might work. So this is, remember, now this is. Oh, sweet. Okay, it's working. Good. So, oh yeah, and I told it to say hello because we have web audio and stuff, and it's a browser, so we could do that. But also, you can edit code and change it and do, and all those APIs I was saying are also available in here. I packaged up all the Johnny 5 stuff for this. So, so if you have a Chromebook, even you get, in a Chromebook, you're not typically going to be programming hardware, except that you can with Arduino in the Chromebook with this app. Okay. Cool. So Chromebot. So we can make Chrome extension stuff talk to hardware. And so the web is getting closer to doing IoT hardware directly, right? And it's not just Chrome extensions, but we also have things like PhoneGap, Cordova, React Native is another thing we're writing in JavaScript and deploying it to iOS and Android. Node WebKit is like just a WebKit thing with Node in the background. You package it up as an app and you install it. Electron and Atom, I think, are newer versions of that. So we've got different ways of writing in JavaScript and packaging it up as an app. If you want to do an app, but if you want it to just be a web browser, right? Like there's certain things that we can't do. Like the web couldn't possibly do like from a web browser talk directly to a light looping Bluetooth, right? It can. So there's a new API, navigator.bluetooth, which is actually only available on Chrome OS right now. But the API is there in Canary as well for Mac, but I haven't actually gotten that to work yet. But on a Chromebook, behind a flag, if you have a Chromebook and behind a flag, you can talk to Bluetooth directly from the web. Some stipulations has to be HTTPS, and the user has to actually interact with the page to kick off the event that starts the thing. So you can't just go to a page and it suddenly automatically does Bluetooth. There has to be some interaction. And this stuff is still a little bit in flux, but it's really cool because BLE in particular, out of all the transports I was mentioning earlier, it does some really cool things. Like one of the things, it has this advertising package. So you don't even have to connect to the device. It could just be emitting things, right? That's how iBeacons work. iBeacons are Bluetooth low energy. Oh, it's low energy, and it's broadcasting this thing that says, "Hey, I'm here. Here's some ID information." Right now, the use of it's kind of crap, right? Like you can have an iPhone, and have this thing that's talking to beacons, like, "Yay, you're in Walmart. Here's an ad." Like, who the hell wants that, right? But that's just one of the things to do with it. What I think is cooler than that is these things contain services, right? So whatever this Bluetooth low energy device is, it has these services that it's publishing. So one of the services might be, say, a heart rate monitor. And you can like search for things that are heart rate monitor. Cool, I found a heart rate monitor. And then you can, hey, heart rate monitor service, what are your characteristics? And it's like, here's some descriptions of these characteristics, and this is awesome. Like one of them might be actually read what the rate is on the heart beat, whatever. So Bluetooth is pretty cool because it's sort of like describing and has the services, and then you can read and write bytes to it, which also makes it like another transport. So one of the characteristics for this guy is to do serial data, so we can just arbitrarily send data to it. So bam, another way to get data in, another one of these Johnny 5 robotics pieces, and we can do this through web browser. Almost, there's a couple of APIs missing. The Bluetooth spec isn't, the Bluetooth spec is fine, but the implementation in Chrome isn't all the way done yet. So it's missing one little API that they promised me they're working on, and as soon as that's there, robotics directly in the browser through Bluetooth, low energy. Okay, but if we want to talk to that stuff now, like you want to do Bluetooth low energy, there's a project called Noble. And if you want to write Node, like I was just doing earlier at the command line, writing Node to talk to the Arduino, you can write Node to talk to, write in Node and use Noble as an API, npm install Noble, and you can talk to stuff directly. Like I said, also behind a flag in the browser, it's a different API. It's navigator.bluetooth, it's not Noble, but I'm working on the shim to make it so that you write in Noble, you transform your code, you webpack your code, or you browserify your code, and it'll work on top of the Bluetooth stack. So one code base, just start with Noble, work from there. Noble has a bunch of hardware covered besides these guys, and eventually it'll just work in a browser. Actually, I did if you have a Chromebook and you have one of these guys, these Lego Beans for $30, they got a new version coming out that's a little bit more, but it's better. I have a demo on GitHub under my GitHub Montes Cool Beans. So you can connect, this is actually using my Noble sort of wrapper, and the Bean stuff that we were doing before Navigator Bluetooth existed, but we can scan for one, connect to it, And this is real simple. You just change. You have some RGB sliders, and they change the value of the LED color. But there's more you can do that. But that's just, hey, we connected. We're reading and writing data to this guy using our Noble API. It's just some cool stuff happening there. Okay, so we got Bluetooth, we got hardware, and so we got like most of these APIs that we want to do this stuff with that we don't really need these packaged apps or app stores or anything like that for. But we might want our thing to act a little bit more like an app. So we're building this web page. We want to make it a little bit, seem just a little more appy, so it isn't just like I'm going to a web page. No, this is an application. So where do we start? If we want to do those things, it starts here. This should look very familiar to anybody writing code. Let me zoom in again. Okay, so it's just a link to a manifest JSON file. And what that is, like we might bring in CSS or something, this is linking to a file that's describing our web page or describing our app. And so here's an example of one of these things, right? A name, like a description, well, they call it short name and name. Some icons so that you'll know, like an app icon sort of thing. You can put in different sizes. Where the starting point is, index HTML or whatever. The orientation when the thing launches, should it be in landscape? Should it be in portrait? All of that is sort of describing an app now, right? That isn't just, so it's sort of web page metadata, but it's also how it would act as an app. So if you guys are building any sites, or anything that's a web application, start putting this in here. Because right now you have this link. If the browser is supporting it, so what? It isn't there, but it doesn't harm anything to have it in there. Okay, but what's bigger than that, though, as far as something we haven't been able to do before, or not easily, to make our web applications seem like apps, is have them work offline. So what happens if you don't have an internet connection, you go to a web page? It's like nothing, or it hangs forever, right? It's just garbage. So, but if you open up an app, it's just there, even though it's like your old Facebook post, but still you've got something, right? So we want that functionality in web pages, and we have that now. With some caveats, of course. It has to be HTTPS. Next month, Let's Encrypt is from Mozilla, and this is free SSL certs, because we shouldn't be paying $800 or whatever VeriSign wants. Like, this is the future now, right? We're going to make sure everything is HTTPS. We're going to do it for free. Mozilla sort of paved the way here with Let's Encrypt. So yeah, you sort of be doing stuff under HTTPS. Also, get a better Google rankings if you're HTTPS. Or you could just host somewhere. Like if you don't want to set up cert to play with stuff, go to pages.github. Surge.sh is free static file hosting. They're also doing everything under HTTPS. So yeah, this offline stuff has to be HTTPS initially. So what? Everybody should be doing that anyways. Okay, so what is the API? Okay, great. We have something called App Cache. Jake Archibald from Google did a really amazing talk. I think it was called App Cache as a debag, but it's on YouTube. It's fantastic. Anyways, it was that he did that. Actually, he did that here. He did that at JSConf 2012, which was in Scottsdale. But the replacement for that API is called Service Worker. So Service Worker's got a pretty simple life cycle. When you go to a web page, if it doesn't have a Service Worker, but your web page is saying, "Hey, I've got a Service Worker," it'll install it or it'll error. And then it runs in the background. So think of writing a little piece of JavaScript that can run in the background without the browser open, or it sounds really bad at first, right? Like this just sounds like, oh, you're just going to cause havoc having all these things running in the background. But they've implemented this pretty well. So what we have is we're telling our web page that we want to register a service worker. Let me see if I can get a little bit better. Okay, so this is progressive enhancement. We don't have to actually support this in our web page. If we do, it's going to be better, right? So like Safari doesn't do this yet. So this code won't break Safari, but if you're using Firefox nightly or one of the last versions of Chrome, you'll just have a better experience. And this is a standard now. So service workers are a standard API. So if service worker is a navigator, that won't break if it's not there. If it is, sweet. Register a service worker. That JavaScript file is the little thing that's going to be running in the background that I mentioned. This is promises. I know some people are scared of these for some reason. Promises are awesome. Like, it really helps with your control flow. Some people just are adamantly, no, you have to always like have the same callback pattern. Anyways, if you haven't learned promises yet, do that, because all the new web APIs are doing this. Yes, awesome, we have a service worker. So what happens in that service worker? So here is the code to the service worker. So what's happening, self is this. It isn't actually a document or a window, because it doesn't have access to the DOM. It is like a thread running in the background for that domain. So we've had web workers and we've had, so web workers, think of them as a thread, right? Like in the past, we might have had an iframe to run a task for us, or just something to not block our main page, right? We want something running in the back, like a separate thread. JavaScript is single-threaded, but maybe we want to not block our UI, not do anything, just have this task running. So web workers did that. Service workers do that without being attached to a particular page or attached to a domain, right? So we're saying, have this guy run. If it's got a few events, so self is the web worker. On install, you could do something. In this case, this is a forward caching. So when this thing is running in the background, it's like, hey, go grab all this stuff and put it in browser cache. So the next time somebody goes here, this is already cached. And we have full control of every call that page is going to make, or anything from that domain. Well, anything where you register that service worker to is going to go through here. So we had other like declarative, the app cache thing, but we're doing this with code now. So JavaScript is controlling the network request that the browser is making, so we can do all kinds of cool stuff here because of that. That's pretty important. The event, anytime a request is made, it's the fetch event in this worker. And we can respond with the cache, or we could like go get the file, and if that failed, then use the cache, or go get the file and if it was cool, put it in cache in case it fails again. Whatever. We got lots of like different patterns we can come up with on anytime a fetch occurs. So you'd think this would be hard to debug, right? Because it's not attached to a DOM, and it still kind of is. There's inspect server, that's just broken. This bottom one here, inspect service workers, don't use that at all. Chrome service worker internals is like the current way that I'm using this right now. And so these are the different ones that are working. Now, most of them aren't actually doing anything because no fetch is being called. I imagine if you try to do like some heavy work in this thing without needing to eventually, like, you would think we're not going to just drain all of our resources and battery for this, that hopefully, I don't know the actual implementation. Maybe I'm very optimistic here. I'm assuming that things will be sniped eventually if they're doing something bad. But anyways, this is a list of the ones that are available, just because sites I've gone to that registered a service worker. I can stop them, I can unregister them. If it's stopped and you make another request, all of this stuff all of the life cycle is so that we can always keep this thing running and replace it when we're done with it and all that. I'm not going to get into all of the details on that, but we can inspect them. So there's actually a brand new thing that just landed in Canary last week, and actually I'll get into that in just a minute. I'll actually show you. It's a better UI than this, and it's specific. So you go to a domain, we've got Chrome DevTools. We could actually go inspect a service worker for that domain within Chrome DevTools instead of this other weird URL. Okay. Ooh, wow. My stupid picture. Okay. So we've got offline support. What about cloud messaging? So this is something that we do, right? Like we want, if the browser isn't even up, but we receive a message, we want to do something, or maybe we want to use Google's cloud messaging service like we do for getting an email. Like to let you know that there's an email or something like that, right? Like these things that we're doing on the phone, we have access to that stuff now. Sorry, I just looked at the dumbest picture I could find for that, and that worked just fine. Okay, sorry, this isn't, I'm not zooming in again. Oh, here we go, yay. Okay, so to get this cloud messaging stuff working, this is Google specific, Google Cloud Messaging. I'm assuming that Mozilla will have one, that Microsoft will have one, but this is namespace Google. So that manifest I showed earlier described the page. It also will say, hey, here's where I'm handling cloud messaging from. And the sender ID is which app is registered under Google. This is specific Google, right? Like, this is the ID for this domain and it's cloud. Anyways, look that stuff up if you really want to do this here. And it's really cool. Well, I'll show you why here in a sec. Also the registration, so I put this stuff in the manifest, but where I register the service worker, I also need to tell it about the cloud messaging service. So after the thing successfully registered the service worker, I can tell it to subscribe to a push manager. So the cloud service can push messages to our service worker. So that code that we're running in that service worker will be what receives anything from the cloud. The browser might, well, definitely don't even have the tab open for that site. You might not even have the browser open, but if there's a browser process running, you could still get messages in and they'll hit your code on your service worker. So this is something that has been a long time coming for us to have this functionality because this is what has been in mobile native for a long time, and it's been missing on the web, but it's here now. So let's say I get one of these events, a cloud message comes in. So it's yet another thing that I can listen for my service worker. A push comes in, sweet, I'm gonna make a notification. So I can actually pop up a little notification that something happened from the service worker. I'm gonna do a real quick demo of that here. So this is not my demo, but it's really cool. So this is on simple-push-demo.appspot.com, right? So from the web page or from a command line curl anywhere that I want to push a message, just make a web request to this big ugly URL, because that is specific to this service worker instance, right? So if you go to the site, you're going to get a different thing here, but that one is tied to this service worker. So if I send a message to that guy, which I'll do right here, just with an AJAX request. See, there we go. It's partly cloudy in London, sweet. All right. So that went through the service worker, or that went up to Google's cloud. It pushed something to the service worker. It shows up in the browser. Okay. So since we can, we've like bridged, we bridged communication to whatever the devices that's running, whatever the devices that's running a browser has the capability of running Chrome. We bridged communication that it could be offline. When it comes back online, it can receive this cloud message. If the browser's down, it can, or the tab isn't open at that site, we're able to communicate with it. So the whole Internet of Things within browsers, we could do with server push, with post message. We can have the things run offline because we cache things. So that brings us a lot closer. So so now we've got like all these different APIs going now, right? Like we've got all these things to do IoT in the browser. I just want to show just one last sort of app that's kind of using a bunch of this stuff. And okay, you remember what I showed earlier? The whole Node-RED thing, where we're doing data flows, right? Decisions based on some type of input, and that was running as a Node process, right? So I fired up in Node. This guy right here, pagenodes.surge.sh, it is not running on Node. It's a UI that's served from, like I said, Surge is a static file server, a static file serving, or static file hosting, static hosting, whatever. but there's no real back end. This just served up the web page, but there's no back end. So, but I could still do like flows, like maybe I'll inject something here, and he's sending some notifications. This is a WebSocket here that's listening in for a certain topic. I can make web requests out. So the trick here is, we'll see it real quickly. See this little guy back here? Did you see it for a second? There's a little box there. It's an iframe. That iframe is sort of, I used Webpack, which is like Browserify, to take all of the Node-RED backend code and sort of transform it with a lot of modifications to run inside of a browser. Now, instead of making AJAX requests to say like, hey, deploy this workflow, I'll just have it do a post message to the iframe, so to sort of internally communicate. So this is IoT data flows within a browser. It can run offline because it's using Service Worker. It still needs a few things. I'd like to get the web Bluetooth stuff in here, which I'm working on. So we can bridge all of these things now, right? So we can create a data flow. We can maybe set up a node to do pod messaging input. Maybe kick that off when the message comes in, kick off that flow. Do something, do a post to one of the services like Octoblue or IFTTT or anything to kick off some other thing. So we've got hardware, Bluetooth is coming, and that's basically it. I would like to just actually, what do we got? We got a few minutes, cool. I'm going to just throw all of this away here and close these up here. I'm going to deploy nothing, just because this stuff is kind of fun to play with here. I'm going to confirm that. Sorry, I'll show you guys in just a second. I just wanted to clean up the mess I made here for a second and delete that guy. Okay, so I've got a clean slate. So what do these flow tools really do? So we know that we start with some type of input, and we route that somewhere. And I will zoom way in. Zoom in even more. Okay, so this one is saying, hey, just give me the timestamp, but I don't want that. I want to send a string, and I want to send a string of hello. And then I want to route that message just to this debug panel. So this is a debug node, it's going to send to the debug panel. I'm going to deploy that. Okay, great. So that's our first step into the world of doing data flows, right? We have input, and it goes to an output. And then I could just start no, I want it to be a notification instead. Okay, so it's actually going to do both, right? It's going to send something down here, and it popped up a notification there because we have web notifications. Cool. But how do I get something in that isn't from me hitting the button? Well, that is, let's make a connection to a WebSocket server. And I'll also show you the code for this WebSocket server. So this is using Socket.io, and Socket.io is really cool. It's to do WebSockets in Node. WebSockets in Node are already pretty easy to do. Socket.io is like a wrapper library that does some things, makes the messaging happen a little easier, lets you maybe connect a bigger backend to it, do clustering and all of that. But I've just got a few methods. So this is my very, very simple IoT server. What does it need? It needs to say, hey, join a channel, right? Like sort of subscribe to a topic, basically join a channel. Leave that channel if I don't want to get messages from it anymore. Send something to that channel. So maybe somebody else has subscribed to a different channel. That's all the IoT, right? It's just routing messages to different locations. So in 118 lines, this is the IoT server, also running under SSL. Also with core support, so we can do cross-domain requests, say from this guy to it. So let's go ahead and make a connection to my a secure connection to that little guy. It's Montes Lillet. And if anybody wants to hack it, it's like got no security on it. It's super like vulnerable. Enjoy. The topic, how about the topic could be my name, Luis. Okay, and if any message comes in, we'll just send into another debug thing here, and we'll deploy that. So take a second, okay, it says we're connected, so we're actually listening. And that's cool, but there is, I need somebody to send something to this, right? So, Jason, are you on this?
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody, Jason or otherwise, go to pagenodes.surge.sh, and I'll show you what to do from there. Let's do another inject there. And this time what we're going to do is we can also write arbitrary JavaScript in this thing and have it run whatever you want. But all I'm going to do here is make a web request. So this web request, I'll have to go to I'll debug its response. All this guy has to do, let's do a post to HTTPS, monteslu.icedev.com/send to my name. And because I already said I'm subscribing, right? So if I just make a web post using my simple little IoT server, it should route to this guy. This is just myself running, which is silly, but if Jason gets us here, what we should get is, okay, I send a post, and what's funny here is this is the response. So this number, this timestamp, came in from here to this payload, but that happened before I got a response from that post. So the WebSockets are pretty quick. I've got like a stateful connection. So before the post even returned, I already got the message into here. Anyways, I think it's weird, but that's why those are out of order, because that fired before the web response. I'm going to connect this now. I just connect this one to this same notify here, and I'll deploy that. So does anybody have the ability to either curl or just do an HTTP post or use this thing through the HTTP post to monteslu.icedev.com/send to/LUIS? Yeah. I can do it from another browser. That's just not as cool. I want somebody to say a bad word and show up on my screen. Draw some ASCII bad stuff. Losing faith in humanity. Nobody is full range to put whatever you want on my screen right now. Nobody? Wide open here.
I can't connect to the Wi-Fi.
The Achilles heel of the cloud.
Wi-Fi. It's always the Wi-Fi. Oh, look at those. Whoa. Chance rules. Okay, so, man, you're hitting the hell out of that thing. All right. You can actually put that on a timer and just flood the thing, right? Like I said, I don't have any security on that node server, so just put it in a loop, just blast the hell out of it and see what happens. I think I'll probably run out of memory on Chrome.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty
Make a
much.
little botnet with some other circuit
Absolutely.
workers, other people's.
So that's it, right? We have stateful connections. We can do everything in the browser now, just about. We can run the things offline, and we can make robotics happen. We can send a message that is based on whatever and make anything move, right? We can do all of that now. So
yeah.
That's all I got. I think I have one more. Do I have any more slides? Yeah, I just like this picture. Right? Season 6, man. It's a hoax. All right. that's why I had Twitter handle. Any questions?
Yeah, you know what I'm gonna ask. So you mentioned you don't have any security on your stuff.
Yeah.
Is there any provision whatsoever to actually have encrypted communication?
Absolutely.
Or signed communications
So
between nodes?
you can remember this payload could be anything. You can encrypt the payload. You can make it sort of like we're doing with JSON Web Tokens. You can sign something locally, and it can have all kinds of stuff in it. And then the server that's interested has the key on it. Or, well, the channels, like all my stuff is HTTPS, right? So I can't get man in the middle from here. But maybe it gets routed to somebody that I don't want to have it. Well, then the payload itself could be encrypted. All of this could be encrypted all the way down. MQTT has MTTS. WebSockets WS has WSS. HTTP has HTTPS. So you should be using that everywhere, and it should be, now that Let's Encrypt is available, there's like no excuse to not do this stuff, right? It should all be encrypted.
Although it's not really, as at the ISSA conference, they so kindly pointed out,
Yeah.
there's about 1,200 CAs, and you only got to bribe one person at one of those,
To man in
and
the
you can
middle.
ruin the whole CA
Yeah,
system.
yeah.
So HTTPS is, it's better than nothing, but it's not as
There's
good as something.
nothing inherently worse about this than any of the rest of the internet. How about that?
That's a good way to put it.
Except for my server. Other people should put passwords on stuff. This was a demo. Any other questions? Cool. All right.
I realized when I went back there, I totally forgot to introduce. This is my friend Louie, everyone.